Chaos surrounds us, but I will gladly show it who is in control.
Hello, Rivals fans, and welcome back to the Rivals Report, the show that gets you up to speed on Rivals esports news in a nice, bite-sized package. My name is Diatonic, and this is the Rivals Report number 38 for the week of March 2nd, 2026, powered by Gamer Advantage. On this week's report, Ignite Preseason is around the corner, and we've got some brief updates regarding tournament format, as well as the talent pool for this year's broadcasts. Oreo has been doing a Marvel promotion with their Stuf of Legends cookies, and they just recently held a 25k Invitational tournament to commemorate the occasion. We've got some highlights and a breakdown of the event. Partners Assembled is back this week, covering 2 EMEA orgs that were slated as partner teams for this season. And the Scouting Spotlight returns once more, this time with profiles breaking down 3 of the best Duelist players in the world. Well, the countdown to Ignite 2026 is on, with preseason just a few short weeks away. But in the meantime, we're getting a steady drip of information about this season's competition. So far, we've learned more about the tournament format, some changes to the map pool, and most recently, the talent pool that'll have the call on broadcast. Ignite 2026 all kicks off with the upcoming preseason tournament, now officially scheduled to kick off on March 27th. The Americas and EMEA regions will be the first ones in action, with the Asia side of the Pacific region starting just a week later on April 3rd, and the Oceania side kicking off last on April 24th. All regions will compete in a round-robin group stage, then the top teams from each group will advance to the Double Elim main stage, all culminating in the grand finals. Group stage matches will all be best of 3, main stage matches will be best of 5, and the finals will have both BO5 and BO7. Aside from the preseason tournament format, we also got some information regarding the competitive map pool, and there are a couple of key changes coming through. Of course, the newest map, Museum of Contemplation, will join the lineup of selectable maps, but Shin Shibuya will also be joining the pool too. This map has been available since the beginning of the game, but this will be the first time it's active for competitive play. The map pool is going to really spice things up this time around, as Museum of Contemplation, Shin Shibuya, and even the somewhat recent Heart of Heaven are so different from the other maps in rotation. It's going to challenge players and teams to keep strategizing and deepen their understanding of the game. And as of yesterday, for the time this video is uploaded, we also have a full reveal of the casters that'll be bringing you the action, and it's quite a mix of old and new faces. AMER and EMEA are adding 2 new faces apiece. Gaskin is joining the Americas team, bringing experience from an array of other titles like Apex Legends, Halo, Call of Duty, and more. So also joins AMER, coming from other big titles like Valorant. In EMEA, Lemon Kiwi makes her triumphant return, having been an MRC caster earlier on. And alongside her is Vaudable, bringing a face from the Rocket League community as well. And PAC has the most newcomers of all 3 regions. CB joins the lineup, bringing plenty of past experience in Rivals along with other titles like Apex and Overwatch. Keg also joins the PAC team, bringing a wide array of casting and hosting experience from numerous titles. And I also have the honor of joining the PAC casting team, and it is truly an honor to be among so many talented individuals. And I have to take a moment to thank all of you that have watched my content and supported me in this journey. Working at Ignite has been a massive goal of mine, and I never would have imagined I'd have already made it in. I'm incredibly proud of the work myself and many of my colleagues have done in bringing you Marvel Rivals action from dozens and dozens of community tournaments, and we're thrilled to be here at Ignite now as well. That's all the Ignite news we've got for now, but we'll keep you updated as more becomes available. Also this week, in case you missed it, Oreo have recently been doing a promotion with Marvel called Stuf of Legends, with special packs of Oreos featuring Marvel characters. As part of this promotion, Oreo also held a small invitational Marvel Rivals tournament featuring some very familiar faces from both the content and competitive sides of the fence. This is the Stuf of Legends Rivals tournament, with a 25k prize pool on the line. 4 teams were assembled to do battle over the prize pool, consisting of some well-known pros and content creators. Players like Aramori, Delena, Gilbert Noodle, Terra, Vess, Kaluge, Donatello, and Millennia were all here. But there were some new faces too, and some coming to participate in their first ever Marvel Rivals tournament. It was a fun time, a great showcase of some Rivals talent, and of course a cookie-filled event to help elevate the Oreo crossover and the game itself. The teams are pitted against each other in a 2-stage tournament, a BO3 round-robin stage where teams would all play against each other once. Then they'd be seeded into a single Elim bracket, with the 2 winning teams advancing to face off in the grand finals. Like many of these creator tournaments, a big intention behind it was to have fun, but there was some competition here too, with close matches and big plays from some of the known quantities in the Rivals space. With round robin in the books and the bracket played out, we'd get a final matchup between Team 1, featuring names like Vess and Delena, and Team 2, home to players like Terra, Gilbert Noodle, and Coach Mills. The game's newest hero, Elsa, was out here in full force, with both teams looking to leverage the Monster Hunter to the fullest. Team 1 would initially lean into Triple Strategist, and Team 2 would follow suit as the series progressed. We'd also see some Vanpool action from both Mills and Vess as they clashed on the front lines. But in the end, it'd be Team 1 taking home Oreo Cookie Gold here, winning the series and the lion's share of the generous 25k prize pool. Of course, Vess and Delena are notable pro players, but there were some big creators on the winning team as well, with Infernasu, Raylene, Quubbles, and Dish rounding out the rest of the roster. This one may have gone under your radar as it did mine initially. It wasn't advertised particularly heavily, which is surprising given it's a crossover with a brand like Oreo and featured a hefty prize pool for a creator tournament. It was a pretty entertaining broadcast overall, filled with Oreo cookie shenanigans and some Rivals action featuring names that you may or may not know. Events like these are always welcome for getting more eyes on the game and giving players the opportunity to have a tournament experience. We're back with more partners assembled this week, bringing you full profiles and histories on the esports org securing themselves partner slots for this year's Ignite circuit. We're focused on the EMEA region for this week's showcase, covering the region that's taken home all the LAN championship gold thus far. Our first partner team this week is one that's been playing together for quite some time now. The roster started off as an in-game faction in their early days, and mostly haven't changed since their signing. This team would become one of the most dominant in the game and solidify themselves as the best in the world at Grand Finals in Atlanta. We're starting off with the defending world champions, Virtus Pro. Virtus Pro was initially founded in 2003 in Russia and has made a name for themselves across numerous titles like Counter-Strike, Dota, Rainbow Six Siege, and more. They're an org that's built their foundations on success, housing one of the greatest Counter-Strike rosters of all time, a multi-major attending Dota squad, and now one of the most dominant Marvel Rivals rosters in the game. That CS team would pick up big wins at EMS1 Katowice in 2014, among other majors. VP were unable to use their name for several years due to their parent company's ties to the Russian government, but this was lifted by 2023 after a buyout from a new CEO. When entering Marvel Rivals, VP would sign the faction known as Team Cats, who won the War of the Realms tournament as well as the Season 0 MRC. VP would immediately emerge as the most dominant team in the region, not dropping a single competitive match all the way up to Stage 1 of Ignite. Rad Esports would hand them their first official loss, and Berber Patapin would go on to eliminate them, surprisingly stopping them from attending the mid-season finals. But they'd come back in the second half of the season with a vengeance, taking Stage 2 by storm, then taking on all comers at the Grand Finals until they were the last ones standing tall atop the throne. If you've seen VP play before, the roster hasn't announced any changes for the upcoming season, so you can expect the same killer lineup of Sparker, Phi, Nevix, Fincy, Dridro, and Saipe, the very same roster that currently stands as the defending world champions. This team, as previously mentioned, brings the chemistry advantage, as they've been playing together for a full season now. Clearly a hallmark of the org itself, but as the rival scene is still developing and rosters remain volatile, this will continue to be a major advantage for this org as they look to defend their title. For our other partner team profile this week, we're turning to something new. They're a brand new org to Marvel Rivals and have multiple high-caliber squads across a number of titles. They broke into more international competition through the Call of Duty League and are looking to make their next move into Marvel Rivals. For our other partner profile, we head to the country of Spain as we cover Team Heretics. As previously mentioned, Team Heretics is a Spanish esports org, and they were founded back in 2016. They've got teams in multiple games, including League of Legends, Brawl Stars, Valorant, and Siege. The org is also the owner of the CDL team Miami Heretics. They of course have an incredibly strong Spanish-speaking fan base, pushed in part thanks to a big focus on content creation and digital entertainment. Their biggest claim to fame comes at the 2025 Esports World Cup in Saudi Arabia, as Team Heretics were able to bring home the championship in Valorant. They'd defeat a huge name in Fnatic, not only winning the match, but doing so in dramatic fashion with a reverse sweep out of nowhere. It was an absolute fairy tale run for that team, and one that'll put their name firmly on the map, opening up further opportunities for expansion into other titles. This will be the Heretics' first foray into Marvel Rivals, but they're bringing a star-studded team with plenty of Ignite veterans to give themselves an upper hand. A big part of Heretics' core comes from the former Citadel EU roster, bringing on Alex, Enzo, and Tanuki. They've also got some former Navi in their identity, as they also bring on Naga as the partner duelist to Tanuki. Rounding out the roster is Beetle, who was last seen playing with breakout faction Chopped, as well as Oasis, who's got a wealth of experience with other teams like Final Dance, FaZe, and Zero Tenacity. There's quite a bit of success at the core of Heretics' DNA, with many of those players picking up big wins, most notably Naga having been part of the mid-season finals champion roster. So while Team Heretics may be a new face in the rival space, they're bringing a deadly team to ignite the battle. We turn away from team profiles now to take a look at a few key players. This is the Scouting Spotlight, where we cover the background and playstyle of the players you need to know ahead of the 2026 season. We've talked about strategist and Vanguard players over the last couple of weeks, and now we're changing it up by going to the heart of any team, the Duelist players. This first player we're covering has been competing since the beginning of 2025 and has been a key part of a number of different teams. They've got a wide spectrum of comfort hero picks, everything from Black Panther to Star-Lord to Wolverine. While he's yet to claim a LAN title, he's been incredibly close as a former member of Citadel EU. To kick things off, we're taking a look at one of the players joining Team Heretics, Tanuki. Tanuki initially made a name for himself as one of the top Black Panther players in the world, gaining some notoriety on the ranked leaderboards very early on. He'd convert that into early competitions, initially playing with Euphoria until signing as part of the first roster for EMEA org OG for the Marvel Rivals Invitational. There, he'd also play with future teammates Enzo, Alex, and Ken for the first time. They'd part ways with OG after a top 4 finish in the Season 1 MRC and form their own faction known as Berber Patapim. BBP would go on to compete in some community tournaments such as the Chronovium Cup that they'd win before qualifying for Ignite through the Open Qualifiers. This would eventually lead to a huge matchup in the grand finals of Ignite Stage 1, where they'd cross paths with and ultimately win the tournament against Rad Esports. It was a huge moment for the unsigned squad, who wouldn't remain unsigned for long. Berber Patapim would eventually become Citadel Gaming just before the mid-season finals. Rad would get their revenge against Berber here, eliminating him from the tournament in the top 4. Citadel would go on a tear during Stage 2 of Ignite, reaching the grand finals once again where they'd be pitted against the powerhouse of Virtus Pro. They'd fall victim to VP in a 2-4 finish, but it was more than enough to confirm their invite to the grand finals land. Citadel would be knocked out somewhat early, falling in a tough matchup against 100 Thieves, ultimately finishing in the top 6. Tanuki would part ways with Citadel as they sought to refresh their roster ahead of the 2026 season, but would be announced to be a member of the new Team Heretics roster. Tanuki is one of the youngest players competing in Rivals, but he's already proven himself as a more than capable duelist. He's a pressure-oriented player, always looking for opportunities to turn up the heat and keep his opponents underfoot. He's also incredibly flexible, finding success on a wide array of heroes like Psylocke, Black Panther, Wolverine, Star-Lord, and more. While he may not have found a LAN title for himself yet, Tanuki blends quick reflexes with his collected demeanor, carving out victories and fear in equal measure. We're sticking with the EMEA region for this next profile, and a player that's crossed paths with Tanuki in the past. They bring some prior Overwatch experience, having made a run at the Contenders series at one point. He's a duelist that favors hit-scan characters like Hela, Phoenix, and Psylocke. We're taking a look at another former Citadel player in Melio. As previously mentioned, Melio's first foray into competitive gaming took place in Overwatch, the first step for many current Rivals players' journeys. His first recorded results were from 2020, and along the way he'd compete in Contenders as well as the early stages of the OWCS. It didn't take Melio long to start clocking results in Rivals as well, playing under the Fnatic banner for the 2025 Rivals Invitational. He'd participate in the Season 1 MRC as a member of 0%, and he'd finish in the top 8 there. But it wasn't long before he joined the ranks of Team 1, the team that had eventually become Rad EU. He was there as the team made its championship-winning run at the mid-season finals, being part of the first World Champion roster. He'd be back with Team 1 as they made it into Ignite Stage 2 through the Open Qualifiers, but he'd actually depart the team before their eventual signing with Na'Vi. He'd return to Ignite as a member of Citadel, joining just as they made a solid run in Stage 2, though they'd be shot down by VP in the end, as we talked about during the Tanuki profile. And we of course know that Citadel would head for the grand finals at DreamHack Atlanta and ultimately end up in the top 6. It's not clear where exactly he's bound for as we get ready for Ignite, but he's most recently been spotted playing alongside Planet Sainage in the ROG Rivals tournament. As alluded to at the beginning of the profile, Melio is primarily a hit-scan duelist player, opting for the common choices in that category like Hela and Phoenix. He's a master of tempo, often controlling when the team fights happen and where best to put pressure on the enemies. He's also got a knack for zoning, able to smoke out enemies or force attention onto himself for the rest of his team to take advantage of openings. When the lights are brightest and the fights get hectic, Melio isn't just there to deal damage, he's there to make a statement. One last profile for this week's Spotlight, and we're shifting gears to the Americas region for this one. For this profile, we're covering a former star of the Overwatch League and a player that's seen a fair amount of success in Rivals too. He was one of the trendsetters during the Torch meta, but is capable of succeeding in any meta, period. We're checking in with one of the star duelists of North America, Speedery. Speedery has quite the Overwatch pedigree, spending a few years dominating in the Contenders series. He'd eventually receive the call up to the Overwatch League in 2022, joining the ranks of the Atlanta Reign. He'd play with the Toronto Defiant as well in 2023, with his last recorded Overwatch event being part of the lead-up to the 2023 Overwatch World Cup. But he'd re-emerge in Rivals as a member of Envy in 2025 for the Marvel Rivals Invitational. He'd help the team pick up a couple of Rivals Fight Night wins before competing in Ignite Stage 1, where they managed to score a top 3 finish and lock in a trip to the mid-season finals. They'd go on an absolute tear there, being defeated by Rad in the finals and making themselves the team to beat in NA. They'd have another strong showing in Stage 2, improving to a second place finish and securing themselves a spot at DreamHack Atlanta in the grand finals. But things did not go their way in Atlanta. In the group stage, they'd suffer a surprising 2-0 defeat at the hands of Reject. They'd win 2-0 against Chinese team Iconics, but then take another surprising defeat from Dark Zero. They were finally eliminated from contention after losing to Chopper Mag, and ultimately falling to 1-4 in the group stage after a run-in with Virtus Pro. Envy would announce their intentions to pause Rivals operations afterwards, but Speedery has continued competing in Marvel Rivals, most recently winning the Mega Monthly as a member of Racecar. Speedery is an incredibly flexible duelist, making plays all across the board, though he showed particular prowess on characters like Psylocke, Iron Fist, and of course Human Torch. He has a consistency beyond belief, making minimal mistakes and making himself out to be one of the most reliable members of any team he's on. He is constantly mentioned in conversations regarding who the best duelist is, among names like Terra, Sparker, and so on. When the duel decides the map, Speedery is the name opponents hope they don't see in the KO feed. And that covers all of our profiles for the week, both on teams and players. We're getting ever closer to the start of the pro season, and we're committed to delivering you all the info you need every single week. And if you need a quick refresher on the top teams and players, be sure to click over into the Shorts tab on my channel and check out my TikTok where I upload almost daily. Well, that's all for this week's Rivals Report. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on the latest in Marvel Rivals Esports. And be sure to follow me on other platforms including Twitch, X, and TikTok. And if your eyewear needs an upgrade, go with Gamer Advantage. Gamer Advantage provides high-quality, stylish frames equipped with blue light protective lenses to give your eyes a rest during those ranked grinds. Check them out at the link in the description and use the code Diatonic to support the channel and get yourself a discount. I've been Diatonic, you've been amazing, and I'll see you in game.